okay, we'll first start with core Java and then I'll move to Spring and microservices part. Okay.
Okay.
So can you tell me, like, if suppose I have some kind of customized object into my hash map, and what all things do I need to take care of for it to work properly? And first tell me that.
Okay. And in case of customized objects, I think we first need to override the hash code and equals method. Okay. So why do we need that? Because when we add the object in the hash map, so at that time we need to create the hash code. Okay. So we should know that, okay, we for different objects there should be always different hash code.
What if I do not? What if I override the hash code and I'm returning like a constant value? Suppose I'm doing a return 100 every time. So what will be the impact of it if I'm doing that?
Okay. So every time when we are returning the same hash code, so what will have happened that suppose initially we have bucket of 16 nodes. Okay, I mean the bucket size is 16, and and every node we store 4 things like hash code, key value, and its a node address to the next node. So what will happen if we have the same hash code? Then every time we will get the same index. Like,
Okay.
And in that case, there we will add a linked list on the same index always.
What will be the impact of that?
Okay, if we have in the same hash code, then it will override the keys, I guess.
No.
Because we are.
No. I'm just asking. You are saying that will land up to the same bucket, right? Same index, and it will create a lot of nodes on the same index. What will be the impact of that on the hash map? Will there be some impact, or it will work as usual?
I think there will be a performance issue with that. First, the performance issue.
Okay. Okay, so suppose I do a hashmap.get, it gets into, what is the time complexity for that?
The get time complexity is I'm not sure, but it's the order of 1, because when we get it first check the hash.
I got
index.
it. Yeah, you are correct. That is O of 1. So suppose okay, now all my nodes are at the same index. So what will be the complexity of get?
In that case, the complexity would be the order of n, where the n is the number of node linked list attached on a particular node, because it will first check with the hash code, and then it will check with the key. So hash code is matched, but key is not matched. So it will, with the fourth element would be address of the next node.
Okay.
So it will go on the next node.
Okay. And suppose if I do not override the equals method, then what will happen?
Okay. So when we get what happens is when we check the equals method, like when we are checking the two objects, in that case we will find the inconsistency in that. Suppose we have an object customer where we have the name and address details. So in our equals method, what we are doing, we are fetching all these things and we are concatenating, and we are checking each and every values. But when we will only compares the object, it will check the content of that particular object.
If suppose I do not, I mean to ask, if I do not override the equals method, what will be the behavior? I mean, which equals will it use, and what is the behavior of that method?
Okay. In that case, it will use the default object class equals method.
Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah, that's fine. So okay, coming on to the next thing. So have you do you know what is a vector and the difference between vector and array list?
Yeah. So vector and array list both are used to store the data line, like these are the data structure, but the difference is that vector is a thread safe, okay, where array list is not a thread safe.
Okay.
And
So which is the form of thread safe array list, or you can say what is fail fast versus fail safe collections, and can you name a few of them?
okay, so thread safe collection, I think
Not thread safe,
concurrent.
fail fast and yeah, correct. Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, so concurrent hash map is one of the example of that fail fast. Sorry, fail safe.
Okay.
Okay, I think I am confused in this, because when in concurrent hash map, what will happen when we try to modify during the iteration process, we won't be able to modify any content, or we will not get any exception in that.
Why so? Any idea why
Uh,
we do not get? Whereas if you will use hash map, you will get a concurrent modification exception. Any
yeah.
idea why?
Yeah, that's because concurrent hash map internally uses the hash table, and hash table is synchronized. But we have one more advantage here in concurrent hash map, that is, it does not synchronize the whole hash set, but hash table. What is do? It create the segments and is log the particular segment only.
Okay. Okay. So have you heard about copy on write array list?
Yeah, I have heard, but I currently I do not know in much detail.
Okay. So that is actually a part of fail safe form of array list. The reason being why it is not because of thread safety, why they do not throw this concurrent modification exception. The reason being it creates a copy and it actually updates in the copy, not on the actual or array list object.
Okay.
So similarly we have for set and other things as well. Okay, fine, not an issue. Fine. Okay. So what is class loader in Java? Can you name some of the class loaders?
Okay, when JVM calls the instantiate classes, so at that time it loads the class. But actually, I do not remember the class loader names. No.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Fine. Okay. So fine. And okay, can you tell me about serializable interface? And suppose I have a parent class that implements serializable, and I have a child class, right? So will the child class be automatically serialized along with that or not?
Yeah, the child class will automatically synchronize with the parent one, because when we create, because child will extend all the properties of the parent, and parent we have already synchronized the class, so it will inherit those properties.
Okay, fine. And suppose I have a parent class and I have a child class, and inside so suppose in my parent class I have like an address field, okay, and my child class address is actually having city, street address, and your state along with your country. So suppose I do not want to serialize only the city, and I want to serialize rest of the things. How you can achieve that?
That can be achieved by two ways. Like, we can either mark that particular city as transient, or what we can do, if it is we are passing JSON, then we can use annotation like @JSON ignore.
Okay. So suppose, okay, fine. If I use transient, okay. Now my problem is I like I have a parent interface that implements serializable, and I have a child for that. Okay, so that class is actually inheriting the parent. Now the problem is I do not want to serialize my child class. How can you achieve that? Apart from transient anyway, because transient you cannot use with entire child object.
Yeah.
You can do it for a couple of fields if you want.
Okay. I'm not getting it right now.
Okay, no problem, fine. Okay, so have you worked on Java 8?
Yeah, I want.
Okay, so okay, can you name some of the features of Java 8 that you have used?
Okay, yeah. So I have used lambda expression in our application, and also some features which were used were about the date time API. So as it was a financial project, so we need to generate the reports also.
Okay.
So for that it was useful that we can use the different time zones in the date time API, and also there were some different features like at the function interface is introduced in Java 8. And there one more feature, I think the meta spaces were removed, but I'm not very sure about that.
Okay, so have you worked on streams?
Yeah, I have worked on streams, like not much, but yeah, I have some knowledge of streams.
Okay, so okay, fine. So can you tell me what is the difference between parallel stream and normal stream, and what is stream basically used for?
Okay, stream is basically used to manipulate the like the stream of list or stream of any collections. Like in stream we can work on the list only. Like if we have some array, so we cannot directly call the dot stream method. So we first need to convert that array into a list, and then in that list we have different in streams we have different methods like filters.
Yeah, that is fine. Can you quickly go through what is the difference between parallel stream and this stream, and in which case we should use which one?
No, I am not aware of parallel streams. I am not worked on it.
Okay, can you tell me, like, if suppose I have a list of employee objects, okay, and I want to sort those based on the for example employee, you can say age. So how to do that using streams?
Okay. I suppose there are by filter function is there.
Okay.
In that filter function, we need to using lambda expression. What we can define is that where employee dot get age is we need to sort on the basis of employee dot get age. I think we can use comparator for that in our general Java purpose. But in streams, I think there are some by default functions like dot filter dot sort.
Yeah. So you have to use actually the sort method for that. Fine, that is okay. Okay. So yeah, and apart from this, okay, you mentioned you have worked on functional interface and Java 8. So how is this diamond problem being solved in Java 8? For example, I have two interfaces, right? And they have, as you know, in functional interface we can have default methods and abstract as well as static. So suppose I have two interfaces and I have the same default method in both of them, and I am implementing that into some of my class, and I am using that. So how this is going to be resolved? How this diamond problem is going to be resolved?
Okay, and let me think. Okay, so we are having the same default method in both the interfaces.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there would be issues in that,
Okay. Okay. No
like
problem.
compilation issue.
Okay. No problem. Fine. So, fine. Now let me move to Spring Boot. I think we are short of time. There is just 15 minutes left. Okay. So, have you used dependency injection in Spring Boot? Can you just quickly go through? Okay. Suppose I'll just ask you the problem itself. I'm not going to ask what is this, what is this. Not going to get into those things because we are short of time. Okay, so suppose I have like two beans. Fine. Sorry, I have an interface and I have two implementations of that particular interface, right? And I'm creating services out of those. I'm having @ service, so the bean will be created for that, right? As soon as your container starts. And now suppose I am using an @ AutoWire for my interface. How to ensure that the correct bean gets injected into it, and will it give, if I suppose give simply @ AutoWire my particular interface, what will be the error that I'll be getting? Will there be some error? And what is the way to resolve that particular error?
Okay. So when we are initializing our Spring Boot application, so we will use the @ component is in there. So at that time, what we need to do, we need to use the @ configuration and annotations on those classes or interfaces. So what will happen? It will already injected in the Spring Boot container. So when we use the @ AutoWire there, so it will not create any kind of object, like it is already there. So it will inject that dependency, but we need to define it.
Yeah, I was just asking, I have same two implementations of same interface, so will it be able to properly inject, or there will be some conflict?
Like we have a same bean and two interfaces, like what?
I have one interface and there are two implementations of it. So will it be properly able to inject that into the interface, or there will be some conflict? Can you just tell me yes or no? I mean, simply.
Yeah, there would be conflict in that, and that could be resolved by adding the property in the bootstrap.yaml. Like the properties relates with the overrides. Like I do not remember the exact property name.
Have you heard about @ qualifier?
Yeah, I have heard.
So what it does? In which case we use that?
Suppose we need to create a chain, like the chain transition manager, where we need two bean types of beans. For example, we have DB1, DB2, and there are two different beans for that, and we need to create a chain of those beans. So what we will do, we will first create a qualifier for that, like the qualifier for the first bean, and then we will create a qualifier for the second bean, and then we will define which is the primary bean in that.
Okay. Yeah, so that is what you can actually use in the scenario that I was asking you to do it. Okay, fine. Can you tell me what are Spring profiles? Have you worked with that?
Okay, so when we deploy our application in any environment, so we can create a different types of profiles, like for the QA, for the development, for the production or UAT. So what will happen that we need to create a different property files for that. Like if we define the profiles in our configuration file, so it will pick a particular file on the basis of its environment. Like we do not need to change all the configuration everywhere.
Okay, got it. Fine. So have you worked on aspect-oriented programming?
Yeah, I have worked on the
So in which scenario have you used that?
Okay. Uh, we have used it where we had a one data class, and what we did, like whenever request was coming, we need to process is all the fields, and we need to check whether we need to check all the annotations there. Okay, whether the annotation which we have added is correct or not, like the request is fulfilling our requirement or not. So for that we have used the everything where we in the loop using reflection what we were doing, we were calling that instance of that class, and we were checking all the annotations.
Have you used @around advice or something like that, before or something like that?
Yeah, for the logging purpose we have done that for the execution, and at the
So how
and
does
for
it get executed, and how do you configure that? So suppose I have you are doing the logging and I have a request coming onto my specific controller. So how do you configure that when it lands where and how it works? Can you just quickly tell me this thing?
uh, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So at that level, we define it on the basis of package structure, like com.util.star, whenever we will so whenever this class will be executed, so first uh, our AOP class or the login which was defined in the AOP class will execute first.
Okay, fine. Right, and okay, this is fine. So coming on to microservices, so like you must be having some microservice based architecture into which your request would be coming in from the API gateway, and you will have some
Yeah.
service discovery, right? So suppose I want to at which point of place where you are actually implementing the security part, and how do you take care of security in your application, and what mechanism are you using for that?
Okay. So whenever we receive any request, it comes to the API gateway level. So we have added one filter there. So first all the requests are in HTTPS, and our all the requests are in on secure mode. So first we will check the request as well, that it does not contain any suspicious data like .SQL or .HTML kind of thing. So we fetch those things also, and also we have provided one client ID secret to our client, and JWT token for the permission thing. So whenever we receive any request on our API gateway and it is passed from there, then on any resource server, first it will call the authentication server, where it check the request header and fetch the JWT token, and check the permissions, whether this user is authenticated and authorized to use this API or not. So what we did, that in our DB we have list of all the endpoints, like all the suffix of all the endpoints, and we have mapped it with all the client IDs. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that is fine. So how do you manage this JWT token? How, I mean, it it expires after some point of time, so how the refresh thing and everything works?
Okay, so we have two things there, like the refresh of we have access token and the refresh token. So suppose we have is 1 hour, and refresh our token validity is 3 hours. So what we had done, on get the token, okay, and if the token is expired, so the pattern need to call the another API with the refresh token, okay, and if we provided the correct refresh token, then what we do, we provide the new access token as well as the new refresh token. And suppose if refresh token is also expired, then we have already provided the client ID and secret, and using that he need to generate the new token.
Okay, yeah.
He need to save in his environment also.
Okay, got it. Fine. So, okay, for the inter-service communication, what are you using? I mean, between the communication of your backend microservices?
we are using Fin client for that.
Okay.
So
So you are authenticating those requests as well. That is between your microservices, or you are just authenticating the third-party requests.
no, we are doing for our internal microservices also. See,
Okay.
the API gateway is in DMZ mode, so it's publicly accessed. But the resource server are in secure zone. But but also we are giving them extra protection there. Like whenever we are calling microservices, it will always call the authentication server.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine.
And it was also easy with the Fin client to manage all these things. Of course.
Okay. So do you have any idea which microservice pattern you guys are using into your project?
We are using API gateway design pattern.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. So okay, that is fine. And apart from that, what is the major, what was the most difficult thing you faced while working with microservices? We all know there are a lot of advantages of this particular architecture, but it comes with many disadvantages as well. So can you tell me what was the most difficult thing you faced because of this particular architecture?
Okay. So the business wise, what we faced a most difficult part was there was already a system built on the web object technology which was creating the transaction. But when first we built this new microservice architecture for the transaction creation part, so it was taking a more time than the previous system. Okay, so we need to analyze our whole structure and the database relationships, to lower down that the process time of our services. Because earlier it was taking around 2 seconds to create a transaction, and now it was taking around 2.5 seconds. So what we did was we break down all the database relationships in our entities, and because it was taking a lot more time, because one class is calling another entity and another entity is fetching the data from the third one, and everything was eager loading there. So it was creating lots of issue. And another thing which was an issue was the deployment thing, because we have started with the Docker deployment, and it was new for us and the client also. So we have managed all those deployment things with us, like there was no infrastructure support from at that time. So
Okay.
we learned the Docker deployment by ourselves, and then we guided the client as well. So that was also a tough
So
problem.
so you guys are using Docker, is it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
how do you scale your applications in Docker? Like, suppose we have usually Docker Compose file into which you provide all the images, environment, etc. So, how do you scale your applications when it comes to Docker?
Well, I'm not aware of it. Like
Okay.
in the Ribbon, I think we can use, but in Docker, I am not very much aware. Like we can create different compose files, or we can create a different entries of the in the same compose file. But I'm not very sure how dynamically we can scale up it.
Okay. Have you worked on scaling up services in any of the environment?
No, right now we have only deployed the one instance there, so we have
Okay.
not worked on it.
Okay, no problem. Fine. So, suppose, okay, this is fine. And on microservices part, like, have you heard about Hystrix?
Yeah, Hystrix. We are using Hystrix because whenever our request is coming from anywhere, like any microservice or any client, so if it is taking too much time to process that request, so what we had done, we had set the Hystrix timeout,
Okay.
and we have created a fallback method. And in the fallback method, we are providing some default response to the an immediate microservice or the client.
Okay, yeah, fine, that is fine. And apart from that, have you heard about circuit breaker pattern in microservices?
Mm, The circuit breaker pattern I have not worked on.
Okay, no problem.
Like
Yeah, that is fine. So, okay, I think we are almost till the end. The time is up. So it was really nice having a discussion with you. I would just like to give you a couple of